This is Top Accurate Global News Update. I am Abiodun Mohammed. Russian military forces have been enhancing defensive positions in and around the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant in southern Ukraine in recent weeks, 4 witnesses said, ahead of an expected counteroffensive in the region. New trenches have been dug around the city and more mines have been laid. Surveillance cameras at the plant are pointing north across a wide reservoir towards Ukrainian-controlled territory. The Russians have had firing positions set up atop some of the plant's buildings for several months. Nets have been erected in a possible deterrent to drones. The measures, described by 2 Ukrainians who work at the power plant and 2 other residents in the city of Enahoda, underline the risks the war poses to the security of the facility. The sources spoke on condition of anonymity because of fears for their safety in the city under Russian occupation. Russian state nuclear energy company Rosatom said any possible military action by Ukraine posed a threat to nuclear safety and that the plant's equipment was being maintained properly. The Ukrainian Military Intelligence Agency and the Russian Defense Ministry did not respond to requests for comment. Chinese President Xi Jinping on Friday unveiled a grand plan for Central Asia's development, from building infrastructure to boosting trade, taking on a new leadership role in a region that has traditionally been a Russian sphere of influence. China is ready to coordinate development strategies with Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan and promote the modernization of all, Xi said in an address to a China Central Asia summit in northwest China. With its engagement, China has put itself at the forefront of the race for political influence and energy assets in the resource-rich region. With Russia distracted by its war in Ukraine and the withdrawal of US forces from Afghanistan, diminishing the US presence in the region, the 5 former Soviet republics, with a network of trade corridors, offer China alternative routes to transport fuel, food, and other commodities in the event of disruptions elsewhere. The pledges of support and cooperation at the 2-day summit will present a contrast to a negative image of China invoked at the summit of Group of 7 leaders in Japan from Friday. China's support for Central Asia also appeared to be a counterweight to US accusations of its coercive diplomacy. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskiy will attend the Group of 7 G7 Hiroshima summit this weekend, Ukrainian and Western officials said, putting fresh pressure on Russia against the backdrop of a city synonymous with the horrors of nuclear war. Zelensky will attend on Sunday. 2 officials involved in the G7 summit said, declining to be identified because of the sensitivity of the issue. His presence and his calls for greater support in the war with Russia will add urgency to deliberations as leaders of the world's rich democracies look to crack down on Russia's circumvention of sanctions. They are expected to announce new sanctions against Russia and closer collaboration in countering China's growing influence. In quote, very important things will be decided there, Oleksiy Danilov, Secretary of Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council, told state television. He said Zelensky's attendance was, in quotes, absolutely essential in order to defend our interests. The Ukrainian president is expected to arrive in Japan on Saturday evening. One of the sources said the White House declined to comment. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad is in Saudi Arabia on Friday to attend an Arab summit where he will rub shoulders with leaders who shunned him for years in a major policy shift opposed by the United States and other Western powers, ostracized by most Arab states following the crackdown on protests against his rule in 2011 and the ensuing civil war that killed 350,000 people. His government's readmission to the bloc is a signal that Assad's isolation is ending. A beaming Assad was received by Deputy Governor of Mecca region, Prince Badr bin Sultan, and Arab League Secretary General Ahmed Abu Ghait as he arrived on Thursday in Jeddah, the host city. Assad, accompanied by several other Syrian officials, was then escorted to the reception hall of the royal terminal, where he had a brief exchange with Prince Badr and Abu Ghait. Giant portraits of Saudi Arabia's founder, King Abdulaziz, King Salman, and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman were hanging on the walls. Assad is expected to address the summit later on Friday, along with other Arab leaders. Ahead of the summit, the United States reiterated its opposition to normalization of relations with Damascus. court in Turin is set to rule in the coming weeks on an inheritance dispute dividing the Agnelli family, the founders of the Fiat car company and arguably the best known of Italy's business dynasties. The case stems from the estate of Gianni Agnelli, the celebrated Fiat boss, who was a symbol of Italy's post-war economic boom and died 2 decades ago. It pits Agnelli's daughter, Margherita, who inherited 1.2 billion euros, against 3 of her 8 children, including her eldest, John Elkann, the chairman of Ferrari, and carmaker Stellantis. In the dispute that has riven one of Italy's elite families, Margherita is fighting to overturn agreements she signed after her father's death in order to eventually benefit her 5 children from a second marriage. Sources close to her say, should the Turin court decide in her favor, Margherita, who is 67 and Gianni Agnelli's only surviving child, would stake a claim to half of her late mother's estate and a share in the Elkann family business. The dispute has its origins in an inheritance deal known as the Geneva Pact that Margherita, an artist and philanthropist, signed in 2004 after the death of her father the previous year and agreed when Fiat was on the brink of bankruptcy. That is the size of top accolade global news updates. You can follow us on our social media platforms as displayed on your screen. Happy weekend.